Oh, hello there. Yes, it's Easter Wednesday. Holy Wednesday. Sounds like something out of Batman. It's also known as Spy Wednesday. Yes, it's when we remember Judas and his desire for money and all those kind of anti-Semitic tropes that spill out of that. Yeah. Anyway, speaking of things spilling out and spies and letting people down, I thought, because I was inspired by a headline this morning, we'd look at the press. Haven't done that for a while. The headline that caught my eye was one that really tickled me, actually. It's from the Express. A young woman called Lauren wrote this, and presumably the editor decided to just let it go. But it's King Charles dealt major blow as 8 billion people to skip coronation coverage, Republic warns. Yes, and the thing about that is, you may recall last year we reached 8 billion people in the world. So it's a bit strange to put 8 billion people, because that sounds like everybody, doesn't it? I mean, it might well be. I don't really know who's particularly going to watch it in this country. I think an awful lot of people won't, which also won't be recorded. Anyway, it's just odd. I think what has happened there, because Republic, and they're reporting in the Express, reporting Republicans. I mean, the world's gone mad. But they're reporting that I think 300 million people will watch, which is presumably anyone over 60 in the UK and bits of the Caribbean. Yeah, not all of it, mind you, with the Caribbean these days. Yeah, Republicans ahoy. But yeah, I think they've just taken that away from the world's population and ended up with 8 billion people not watching. But it's odd for the Express to report that. I mean, I don't know quite what's going on at the Mirror Reach, as they're now called, group. Shadowy multi-millionaires who may or may not be non-doms. Anyway, we'll come back to that one. And speaking of non-doms, let's move on to the Sun, shall we? Yes, the Sun. Rupert Murdoch, non-dom billionaire, doesn't pay tax here, doesn't live here, but does tell you what to think in the Sun. And the Sun has been a bit odd this year, because they can't report any news because they're a conservative supporting paper and very pro-establishment. So they can't report anything. So they've given us a diet of nothing for pretty much every day this year. So we end up with, I found world's biggest spider in my bananas, says man who doesn't know what the world's biggest spider is. Everyone knows it's a bird-eating spider, and they don't eat bananas because then they'd be called banana-eating spiders, wouldn't they? Yes. Anyway, football, because that's pretty safe. And lastly, somebody who was big in the 80s, John Bon Jovi, apparently has a daughter who's getting married. And I think the amount that people don't care about that is probably going to be quite huge. Yes, and next up we have probably the most hateful paper of the lot. It's the Daily Telegraph, owned by non-dom billionaire brothers, the Barclays. Don't live here, don't pay tax here, do tell you what to think, pay more tax, earn less, you gits. Anyway, talking of earning less, it's the junior doctors' strike, and apparently one of them, git that they are, have decided to go on holiday, or actually to a wedding, which presumably was arranged ages ago, and is a perfectly legitimate thing to do. Think Dominic Raab with Afghanistan. Oops, what happened to that country? Never mind, 500 dead, hundreds and hundreds brutally wounded, and we've ended up with the Taliban again. But hey, he's still in government, isn't he? So obviously going on holiday's fine. Not according to the Daily Telegraph. Anyway, they're apparently cross about somebody going on holiday. Also, we have the height of royal fashion. Yes, indeed. I imagine the kids are going to be buying their copies of the Daily Telegraph and rushing out to copy Queen Consort, or just Queen now, I suppose she is, Camilla. And lastly, there's the thrilling tale of another banking crash on the way, which means, of course, that capitalism will once again go down the plug hole, which we'll have to pay for once again. I do like the Daily Telegraph. It'll tell us exactly how brilliant capitalism is, even though it fails once every decade or so. Brilliant system. And next up is the Mirror, which is the pride place of the Reach megacorp, and they lead with the royal family having a few issues around the coronation. Apparently it's a bit of a headache for everyone that works for them. Must be miserable to have to sit there and have all these people bring you all these kind of things about, oh, it's going all wrong. Yeah, not really a lot to say about that. At least they managed to squeeze in President Biden coming to hopefully maintain peace in Northern Ireland, although, of course, the British press will be very, very cross in case he dares to say anything against the Unionists, who apparently are the only reasons why there is peace in Northern Ireland. Anyway, let's not go there, said most of the press. And then there's the Times, non-dom, billionaire, Murdoch, again Biden, which is probably a good one, and a rather odd story about a visa loophole is allowing Chinese spies to slip into Britain. Now, I would have thought the visa loophole would be actually coming through passport control, wouldn't it? I mean, surely by definition they're going to be pretending to be something else that they're not. I don't really understand that. And news from the CBI, which isn't great. The flagship of British industry apparently is riddled with sexual monsters. Quelle surprise, one might say. It seems that most British institutions are, despite the fact that the newspapers will tell you ad infinitum that there's no such thing as racism or sexism in the UK. Such things have been banished from the past. Oddly, these stories keep on appearing then. Must be all them snowflakes. And the Daily Express. Oh, God, yes, indeed. Daily Express is often very, very keen on keeping politics out of sport, unless it's against people we don't like, in which case it's, oh, no, the Russians are going to play Wimbledon. Yes, I'm sure they should. And all the joys of unseen images of when Charles was Crown Prince, because those of you over the age of 70 might dimly remember that. I'm not over 70, and I can't. Yes, and Biden there. Let's work on keeping the peace after 25 years. Yeah, let's not sign a really, really dodgy Brexit agreement, which puts all that at risk, eh? Let's not mention that. The Independent. Billionaire, Russian owner, non-dom, doesn't pay tax, etc. It has probably the most important story, which is the fact that we're actually going to have a lower growth than Russia next year, according to the IMF. At which point the newspapers will point out, well, sometimes their predictions are wrong. Yeah, I know, but the fact that they're suggesting this might actually suggest that there is something slightly wrong. Possibly. And of course, junior doctors must halve pay demand to break the NHS deadlock. Or not, as the case may be. It seems like they're settling in for a very long dispute. So, yeah, we'll see how that one goes. I'm sure the newspapers will be full of stories about dead people, because I'm sure that that's going to be their bread and butter from now on to try and break the BMA. After all, that's what you would need if you want to privatise the NHS. You'd want to have very, very powerless doctors. I'm not suggesting it's part of a master plan, but it is part of a master plan, obviously. And neatly slipping over a few papers I can't be bothered with, we come to the joy that is the Daily Star. I do love the Daily Star because it is prepared to just say, do you know what, I don't really care, let's just go with something that's quite fun, and they do. Yes, it's got a very, very flattering shot of Dawn on it, but she doesn't need that. She's a lovely woman anyway. And in keeping with other newspapers from several days ago, there are horror stories about AI, which apparently, because the Pope wore a white coat, except he didn't, means we're all going to die. I don't think so. Anyway, the Daily Star, owned by the Reach Group. Yes, so there you have it. Yes, there you have it. All the news that isn't fit to print. Yes, British press. So part of the establishment you wouldn't believe. Whenever you hear in the British press about the establishment, they never mean themselves, but that's what they are. One of my favourite quotations, I think it might have been from the Glasgow Media Group from way back in the 80s, was, public opinion is male, works in Fleet Street and lives in South East London, and that neatly sums them up. Yeah, I don't know how much longer they can keep this one going in terms of the fact that nobody buys newspapers anymore. It's a very, very weird space that we're in, because in just 5 years' time, these publications will not be around. Like the Daily Express sells like 20,000 copies, I think, in Scotland, which is just like laughable. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what these people that own these publications, because they don't really care that they lose money, but they do care that their message about the fact that they're non-dom billionaires, no, not that message, no, the message that business is great and we must deregulate, even if it results in a banking crash every decade, all those kind of messages need to be kept out there. Anyway, enjoy Spy Wednesday. Sounds like a good title for a film, probably starring an aging Arnold Schwarzenegger. Enjoy.